Welcome to Signs Unscripted. I'm Robin Donovan, Signs of the Times editor-in-chief, and with me today is...
My name is Kody. I'm a neon sign maker in Osaka, Japan.
And what's your last name, Kody?
My last name is Shafer.
Okay. And so, Kody, I first talked to you just a few days ago when you wrote in to ask about getting some copies of articles from, I think, the 30s and the 50s. So can you tell us a little bit about the project you're working on?
Yeah, so I've been living in Japan for about 15 months, and I've worked at a neon studio here in Osaka. And during my last couple of months here in Japan, before I returned to New York in April, I figured that it would be a good time to document the Japanese neon industry and kind of how it's changed and how it's evolving over here. Because I know in New York and in America, neon has hit a boom again.
True.
And over here, it is picking up in say Tokyo. It's really hot, but in other places such as Osaka, it's definitely dwindling down compared to what it used to be. Because you could see, judging by what's left, it used to be a really amazing hot spot where it's the next level of sign making over here. So I guess what the project is really is just taking what was once an amazing craft and amazing work of so many people, now where it's less than 10 people probably making neon in this area.
Oh, wow.
Japan.
Okay.
So
wow, I had no idea. Yeah, I think you might be our first podcast guest from Japan, and I don't think we've interviewed anyone in Japan in a while. So it's really interesting to talk to you. Can you tell us how you ended up there, and how you got into neon?
yeah, so actually they both happened at the same place. So I went to university in New Mexico, in Albuquerque. When I was a university student, I lived with a lot of international people, and I had actually met my wife at university. She was an exchange student from Japan. So that's how I got introduced to Japan. And with neon, when I was 13 years old, my mother had moved to New Mexico, and I was walking along the road there because I found all these amazing neon signs that I was photographing, and I found a neon shop. And this is Absolutely Neon of Albuquerque, and Robert Randazzo is the owner of the shop. And so I peeped in his back door because I heard this whistling noise, and I saw that he was bending glass, and he was kind enough to invite me in, and we stayed in touch over the years. And then when I came to study at university, he invited me to work at his shop part-time.
Cool.
And so I worked there all throughout university, and that's how I first got introduced to neon, and I've been doing it since.
And so will you do neon when you come back to the U.S. then, I assume?
Yeah, that's the plan.
Okay.
I'll go back to New York and start doing neon again there.
Yeah, and we're definitely seeing an interesting resurgence of what I want to call traditional neon making, neon bending, and a lot of interest in that. Do you have any, can you compare kind of the demands from the Japanese industries for neon versus the U.S., like the different types of, the way that work goes there, the different types of projects that you might get?
I guess I'll start traditionally, like back in the day, what they would get back during the economic bubble, they'd say of the 80s in Japan, and a little bit before even, they would get like huge rooftop signs. So it would be, it'd be pretty normal to get an order for over 1,000 neon tubes.
Whoa.
And you'd have to make that in a month. So, and these are stories from my boss. He would, they would have neon vendors, multiple neon vendors working around the clock, 24 hours a day, working in shifts to meet the demands of the industry. And, then you have your rooftop signs for hotels and just all these different, outdoor signs, really. It was mostly outdoor work and using steel channel letters and all of that. And, kind of coming around to today where all those signs are aging. Right now, it's a lot of service work here in Osaka, and it's all kind of turning to LED slowly. Mm-hmm. And then kind of on the coming up now, and definitely in Tokyo, it's big, is, you have your cafes, your salons, all of the kind of trendy, hip places that are, going after neon. And so that's good too. it's not what it used to be, but it's actually, I think, a lot easier for the neon makers because they are, a lot of them are just independent and
Mm-hmm.
working. And so they'd rather make a little cafe sign for a couple $1,000 rather than have to put out hundreds of or, thousands of neon
Thousands.
tubes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I'm also seeing people that are getting into neon through a fine arts background versus through like apprenticeship or through the sign industry. So I think that has influenced the type of projects that folks are willing to do as well.
definitely.
So when you think about just working in Japan, I'm curious, just culturally, what are the differences, compared to working in the U.S. just day to day?
Okay, so first off, I just have to express my gratitude to the people I've worked with here. They've been really patient with me because I try my best to be, mindful of the cultural customs and everything here. But at the same time, I've been here for a year, so I don't know everything. In addition, my Japanese is very poor. Some customs are that I kind of like and that I'd like to continue in the U.S. when I come back are just kind of little things. So there's something, and I apologize to any Japanese listeners if I butcher this, but there's something called isatsu, which is, when you start a job, if when you enter a job site, you shouldn't unload everything immediately. You should go introduce yourself to the people there and say hello and just kind of let people know that you'll be there working. Another thing is, at the end of every day, you kind of say the same thing, "Kaerimasu, otsukare deshita," like I'm going back to my house, like good work today. And that's something you'll hear every Japanese worker say, "Otsukare deshita." And other customs are, I guess, about once a month I'd go out drinking with my boss, kind of go and spend time talking. And that's when you can kind of bring things up about work and talk about how you feel. And, I had that a little bit in the United States, but not as much as here. I guess working wise, what I found very interesting about the Japanese way for neon specifically, what really kind of stuck in my head was in the United States, when people are bending neon, I noticed the style is you bend unit by unit. So, each glass tube you're going to make, whether it's a word, and then you're going to put the electrodes on and get it ready to pump. Whereas here, they'll do all the bending at once, and then they'll put on all the electrodes at once, and then you do all the pumping at once. So it's kind of
Hmm.
blocked into sections. And I found that to be very helpful for learning because you really get to focus on the muscle memory if you're doing the same task over and over.
Ah, okay. So it's like efficient in that way.
Yeah. And
Cool.
I mean, time wise, sometimes when I'm waiting for my boss to put electrodes on things, it it doesn't, it might make sense to do it the other way,
Mm-hmm.
but then I could just find something else to do. But I guess when it comes to making mistakes, in the United States, when I'm pumping tubes for a tube bender, sometimes I'll get holes in the tube where they didn't attach the electrode very well, or and it happens. But here it's very, very rare for me to get a hole in the glass. It's so super rare. So at the same time, it's done pretty well when it's done this way, I found.
Interesting. So I forgot to ask you at the beginning, but what company are you working for over there?
I work for Yoshi's Neon Studio, and I actually ceased working for them at the end of December to start this project.
Okay, cool. And so, okay, so you're working on your book now, and it might be premature to ask this, but if folks are interested in seeing the book when it comes out, is there anywhere that we can direct them?
Yeah, they can search on Kickstarter or Google. I'm sure it'll come up as Neon Spectacular Japan.
Okay, cool.
And luckily the project was successfully funded the other day.
Oh,
So
congratulations. Wow. Okay.
thank you. But I still am, you still are able to contribute and purchase a copy of the book. So
Okay,
that's still up for another
fantastic.
30 days.
Okay, so I will put those links in the show notes. And Kody, thank you so much for coming on the show today and sharing your experience with us. It's definitely one of the more unique interviews that I've been able to do. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time. It was nice talking to you.